Welcome back to my channel. I am going to be filming I'm going to be filming a living alone video today. I have lived on my own for 3 years. It was 3 years last month. It feels like a lot longer because of the year that we've just had. And I think because I'm so comfortable and I can't imagine like living with my parents again or not living here. I've not stayed over at anybody else's house for a year or two now. It just doesn't interest me at all. But at some point this year I'm going to be moving in with my partner, so things are going to change so much for me, and I wanted to kind of document my feelings on living alone now, and hopefully this can help anybody that has anxiety. I have agoraphobia, OCD, emetophobia and panic disorder, and so I know that the move that you might be about to have or are considering having might be, if you're somebody with similar anxieties to me, it might be something that's like terrifying, but I wanted to share my experiences that could hopefully help you. I know it won't change your whole aspect of life, but sometimes watching these kind of videos can make you feel a bit inspired, or hopefully a little bit less anxious, or at least less alone in feeling the way that you feel. So I'm going to be talking about some pros and some cons of living alone with anxiety. Let's start with the cons, because I feel like let's leave the best till last. It's always good to end on a good note. So we're going to talk about some cons. I think my first con would be that there's no team. There's no like person or people that you have that are kind of on your team, especially, I mean, I've gone through the past year of pandemic living alone, and so while it's had many pros, I've not had anybody to be like, oh my god, look at the announcement, or oh my god, you know, reflecting with, or you know, kind of feeling like I'm doing this with people. It's just being kind of me on my own, and luckily my family doesn't live too far away, and my boyfriend doesn't live too far away, and my friends don't live too far away, but you know, we've not been really allowed to see people, and for the first like 10 weeks-ish of the pandemic I didn't see anybody at all, and so it's been a very different experience, and I think some parts of me missed having what would be a team of people, or like, you know, just having those people that are always with you, that get you, that know you very well. I think I missed having that during that time, but also don't know how I would have coped with living with other people during that time either. The next one, it can be very lonely sometimes. I think boring as well. Like I think sometimes you're kind of like, oh, what do I do now? And I think if I lived with somebody or I had my team, then I would have, you know, just somebody to be bored with at least, or you know, go and do something with, or have conversations with. And sometimes it can be lonely, and I think, you know, when people say you need to talk about how you feel, I think that's easier when you're with somebody else more often than not, because you know, by the time you meet somebody else, or by the time you feel the energy to text somebody or whatever, you might not be feeling like that anymore, and so I think that would be helpful. But yeah, it does get lonely sometimes. The next one is that there's only one person doing everything. So when it's a bad day, you still have to be the one that cooks, that cleans, that goes to the shop, even if you're not feeling good. And on anxious days, or days where you're feeling more fatigue, that can be really, really difficult. I still have people that I can ask for help if I ever needed help with these things, but you know, for the most part, it's one person that's doing all of the cleaning jobs and all of the cooking and all of the house stuff, and that's actually quite a lot of stuff for one person. I think that's what I've learned the most, is that it's a lot of stuff to run a house. And growing up, I lived in a two-parent household, and the responsibilities were always shared, and so I think it seemed more easy to me than running a house is just a lot more work than I thought it was. And it can be a lot for just one person, especially when you're suffering with some form of invisible illness. Another con is there's nobody to share the tiny little things with, and I think that's something that's quite beautiful and often overlooked, is just the tiny little celebrations or tiny little difficult things, things that are almost like not worth saying unless it was happening in that moment. I kind of miss stuff like that, or like if the cat does something really cute or whatever, I'm kind of like, you know, I think there's parts of me that would like that, and that I'm looking forward to living with somebody. I'm looking forward to just the tiny wee things. And my last con is that sometimes it can be a wee bit scary. I thought I'd be much more scared than I actually have been. I think that's a big thing for people living on their own for the first time, is they think they're going to be really scared of like break-ins or, you know, something weird happening. And for the most part, I don't think I've ever really felt genuinely scared living on my own. There's been a couple of times, there's been quite a few times actually, where I've thought I've heard something and been quite freaked out. But no, I know that my mind can be very active and imagine ridiculous things happening, and so for the most part there's never been anything bad that's actually gone wrong. I've never, you know, except things like not having my keys with me or whatever, there's never been any like dangerous thing that's happened. There's never been, touch wood, I've never been in any danger from like burglaries or anything like that, and that's a luck thing. But also, you know, I've not been nearly as scared as I thought I would be living on my own, because you get used to the noises around, you get used to all the noises that happen around you. So I think after a while you stop being as scared, and you just, you know, I'm just as scared of like weird noises and stuff like that now than I was living with my family. So that's one thing that can be quite scary sometimes, but for the most part I found okay. Moving on to the pros. I have found many pros of living on my own. I didn't have a clue what to expect when I first moved here. I think most people around me were like, she'll last 6 months, or, you know, I don't think it's really for her, or, you know, just because my anxiety was so severe. But actually I think there's many things of living on my own that's helped with my anxiety. And the first one would probably be that it's more peaceful living on your own. You get to choose what noises there are, and that's something for me that really is helpful. If I'm feeling really anxious, really panicky, I can choose for it to be very quiet. I can choose to close the windows or open the windows, and I know these things seem so tiny and like they don't matter, but I think when you're somebody with such a heightened kind of like system, these things do really matter. Like having a loud TV on or having the window closed and it being stuffy. I think when you're living with somebody you need to negotiate these things, and somebody might be really cold, somebody might be really hot, and you know, you need to talk about whether you want the window open. And again, this seems really small and like ridiculous, but living on my own, I've never had to consult anybody about what I choose to do, and I can choose when to have it peaceful, when to have the flat cold, when to turn the heating on, and that's something I really enjoy doing, and something I think I'll miss if I live with somebody else, because I just enjoy having that control, especially with anxiety. The second one is you can do whatever you want, kind of related to the last one, but by this I mean, you know, I never really think about a schedule. I just wake up and then I do whatever I do. Like I never really think about what, you know, what somebody else's schedule might be and what I can do around that. And obviously if I live with somebody, doesn't mean that I'm going to have to like rule my schedule around theirs, but obviously when you're sharing a space with somebody, no matter what like situation you're in, there's always going to be things that happen or things that they do that is different to what you do or what you want to do. And so I like being able to just like get my clay out in the middle of the day and make some stuff, or film a video whenever I fancy filming a video, or I'm self-employed, so I choose my own hours and I can work whenever and wherever I want to, and that's important to me, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of living on my own. Also, I can choose when I do the dishes, and I can have them mounted up for a day, 2 days, whatever, and then decide to do a big clean, and I quite like not being judged about that. Another thing is people with invisible illnesses often have difficulties with sleep, and with too much sleep, too little sleep. I'm somebody that probably has a bit too much sleep. Because of the medication I'm on, need a little bit more sleep. Sleep is more disrupted when you live with somebody else, whether it's you're sharing a bed or not, and I think I'm gonna miss being able to just like sleep as long as I like. And that's one thing I really like about living on my own, is I get to just sleep, and whenever I want, whenever I choose to sleep. I never ever get interrupted sleep. I live in a fairly quiet, I live on a high street, but I live in a fairly quiet area and there's not really very much that wakes me up. There's never obviously somebody else waking up for work or, you know, like going to the toilet or whatever. It's just always quiet. And so I get to sleep whenever I choose to sleep. And that's something I love about living on my own, is my own big bed with no noise. I really enjoy that. And the last one, I think, is the main anxiety thing that I've liked about living on my own, and that is that I am in full control of everything. Anxiety tends to be around control. I think for the most part, people with anxiety, their big fear is being out of control of something and not being able to change it. And there's that quote that's like, you need to know, what's the quote? I'm not going to do it justice, but it's something about like, you need to know the difference between, no, what is it? Something about, you know, controlling the things that you can control and just like the things you can't control, just accepting that you can't control them. People with anxiety, we like to be in control, we like to know what's happening, we can feel like things need to be very regimented. And one of the best parts of living on my own is I am in full control of everything in my flat. Everything in here I have put there, everything in here I choose what happens when, and I think I really like that. And even little things like if my neighbours are going in and out of the hall and I'm feeling really anxious, then I can feel really anxious about that. Or if people are doing building work around, I can get really anxious about that. These seem like tiny little things to most people, but when you have anxiety, it can be just like a shock in the system and can make you feel unsettled when you feel like you can't control something, even if it's something that doesn't really affect you. It's ridiculous, but that's how I feel. So I really like that. I really like that I can invite whoever I want to invite in whenever I want to invite them in, and equally I can just have this place to myself and not invite anybody in. And so I think the whole thing is just control, and I think when you do live with somebody, you learn to coexist and you learn to both be in a space where you both have control, and it's not too scary. But I think when I do make that step, it's going to take some time to get used to. Just like when I moved in on my own, it took time to get used to it, and there was a good few months, I don't know how long exactly, where I wasn't settled and where it was really scary and I didn't know if I would definitely choose to live on my own for much longer. But like everything, we're so adaptable and we adjust to things, and we adjusted to a global pandemic, and we adjusted to wearing masks in shops, and we adjusted to, you know, a million and trillion things. And now the other day I was putting my hair up in the shop and I had to take my mask off, and I was standing in there like, oh my god, this is so weird having my mask off. So we adapt to things so easily, so quickly, and so whatever your situation is, whatever reason you're watching this video for, I do believe that you will adjust to the situation, and it probably won't be totally easy at first, but you do adjust, you genuinely do, 100%, even if it takes you a really long time to adjust, you will. So that is those are my pros and my cons of living on your own. I am kind of looking forward to the next step of life where I live with somebody else. I think that's going to be fun, and again, going to be scary all over again, but I think that I'm ready for that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Bye!